Uh, okay, Franska, Guai Ching, I really feel honored and blessed to have both of you here. And frankly speaking, every time we have the session, I see your face, Franska, and I see Guat Ching there. I feel, wow, shocked already.
We are good students.
Yes, thank you.
Attendance 100%.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and I guess that's where values come in. And when we interact with people, uh, we seldom talk about it. However, it is the values that drive us. And for me, one of the value is the value of learning. So when I am in the presence of people who want to learn, who are interested to learn, that's when I get my energy up. When I attend training programs, I am in the company of people who want to learn. Like when I went for my Meta Masters, my trainers training, and all that, people there, they just go there because they want to learn. And I want to congratulate both of you for this, because the large majority of people, according to the statistics, more than 95% of the people, after they finish school, they don't want to learn anymore. And in today's day and age, that's very dangerous, because if we don't keep on learning, we become obsolete. Yeah.
Even, so sorry to interrupt. Even in my office, right, I'm working in bank, the big companies, we actually got the free training one. Quite a number of training is quite good one, but no people want to go.
Yeah.
Until the management have to put in like KPI, you have to meet like how many days training, then force the people go, the people only want to go.
Yeah, true. I do a lot of corporate training, and typically with corporate training, the part of getting the buy-in, I would spend maybe almost half the morning of the first day just to get the buy-in from the people to want to learn uh, the training. So that's why when I have this session, for example, having you, both of you here, I get excited over it, because I am in the company of people who want to learn. So high five to both of you.
Thank you.
High five.
Thank you. So this evening, what we'll be discussing is on the topic understanding your child's development. So in your case, it is more of preparing yourself, and I I want to congratulate you again for that, because when I look at my own personal experience, I went in without knowing anything and then just scrape through. Luckily, my wife much more clever than me, so I just follow. So that's why when I uh, uh, talk to fathers, I said the formula. I talk to fathers or husband. The formula is just follow your wife. And I said to those who are not married yet, if you want to get married, find a wife who is smarter than you. Then you just follow her. Everything easy. Yeah, and this is where, as you are thinking about, planning about in the future having children, and Franska, not too far already, we want to realize that that we have talked about that parenting requires lots of knowledge, just like what you are doing right now in your in the area of work that you do. How many years of college, of university that you go through to learn those, and then in the work that you are doing, you are continually learning the skill. So similarly with parenting, there is a lot of knowledge that needs to be learned. The tragedy is that many parents don't learn them, and they struggle, and they think that, and for some of them, they may make the right choices, and yet some of them, they make the wrong choices in parenting. And because of that, not just one person suffer, because in parenting, we are talking about the parent, the child, and then the society surrounding it. So if we do not get it right, then the whole eco structure will be, I will use the word, will be disappointed, will be struggling, will come to harm. So that's why when we talk about parenting, to understand the child's development, because as I mentioned in the posting of this program, that a child is not a little adult. And this is one of the big mistakes that parents make. They attempt to interact with the child as if the child is a tiny adult. The child is not a tiny adult. Now, a child is, I like to use the word magical creatures. Why I say magical? Because the way that they develop, if you take the time, take the interest to observe them, it is truly magical, the way that they develop. Yeah? So I use the word, a child is like magical creatures. Why I use the word creatures? Because they are not human yet. Oh no, they are not human yet in terms of how they, because they are aliens. They just come into this world, and they want to acclimatize, they want to learn how to move in this world. So that's why I use the word magical creatures. They are magical creatures who are in the process of growing and developing to become extraordinary adult human beings. So that's why, for example, in the Malay language, in the olden days, I would say my father's time, my grandfather's time, typically when they meet parents who have young children, I would say the prayer that we say to them is that semoga anak tu bila besar nanti jadi orang. And we say this because a child is not yet fully human. To be human, we need to learn how to be human. And there are stages. There are stages. So a child, if we as adults, and because when we become adults, we forgot the process that we went through. And the tragedy is when we interact with the child as if the child is a tiny adult. That's when we make lots and lots of mistakes with respect to the child's growth. Okay, so what we are going to discuss in this session today is that we are going to discuss about the steps and stages that your child will go through in his or her development. And when we talk about the steps and stages, it's about learning the needs of the child at each step and stages. So now, then after understanding what are the needs at each stage, the question is, do you have the skill to fulfill that need? So, three things. To understand the steps and stages. The second one is, once you understand the steps and stages, only then you can identify what are the needs. And once you identify the needs, the question is, do you have the competency, the skill to fulfill those needs? So those are critical areas. Now, when it comes to children's development, in the time that we have, I'm just going to cover two aspects of the child's development. Okay, let me just do an addition over here. Yep, I've missed one. Okay, I've missed one point over here. So there are 2 points that we want to be discussing this evening. Even though when we talk about children's development, we are looking at 4 different areas. So hopefully this evening we are going to cover 2 developmental areas of a child's development. One is called the psychosocial stages. This comes from Erik Erikson, not Milton Erickson.
Yes, yes, no.
Okay, so I believe that I may have sent you the link for you to go further into this. Now, first one is the psychosocial stages. Now, the psychosocial stages, the first one is the development of hope in the child. The development of hope. And typically this happens from the age of birth to about 1.5. Now, there is no hard and fast rule. Some children may develop faster, some will develop much slower. Nothing wrong with that. However, the typical is between birth to 1.5. Now, what do we mean by hope? So this is, if you were to imagine a spectrum, one end of the spectrum is mistrust, not trusting. The other end of the spectrum is trusting. So trust, mistrust. So in this first stage, when the infant is born, the infant is uncertain about the world because they are aliens. They come into this world, they are just learning about this world. So they are uncertain about the world that they live in. And how do they learn about this world is that they look towards the primary caregiver. So the primary caregiver, your primary role as parents is to give them stability and consistency of care. So if the child during the birth to 1.5 years old is consistently being cared for in terms of the physiological need, in terms of safety and security, in terms of love and belonging. So there is consistency in those needs being met. Then the child will learn to trust, to have trust in themselves and in others. Now, on the other end of the spectrum, if the child were to not receive the care in terms of physiological safety, security, in terms of love and belonging, or it is intermittent, then they grow up to be mistrusting. So that's why if you notice children who grow up in homes that are stable, the parents, the mothers and fathers are caring for them, and compared to children who grew up, let's say, in foster homes or in orphanages, and they get moved around from one home to the other, the level of trust, mistrust spectrum will be different. Okay, so this is the first one. Yeah. This will help the child to create that hope towards life. When I say hope, I had this thought just now as I was preparing for this session this evening. Many years ago, I was visiting a site, and I was in Mumbai. Have you seen Slumdog Millionaire? That movie?
Yes.
I was
Yes.
in Mumbai, and in Mumbai you have a lot of these. I would say children who come and ask for charity, and my Mumbai friends say don't give to any one of them, because if you give them, the others will come and then they'll even tear your clothes off. It's just it's just that at that time I didn't watch Slumdog Millionaire yet, so I did not know the background to it. But there was one particular girl, and I estimate her age to be about 8 or 9 years old, coming to me, and she was carrying a baby sister, maybe a baby sister or baby brother, I'm not sure, but a baby about 1 or 1.5 years old. she came to me to ask for money. And what I saw in her eyes shocked me. For 2 weeks, I was depressed because I saw the eyes of someone who has lost hope. No hope. And you somehow you can see this in the eyes of children. Children who grew up to be cared for, the eyes sparkle. They are sparkling, they are alive. And children who grew up not being cared for or intermittent caring, the eyes glaze over. There is no light in those eyes. And in that girl's eyes, I saw the eyes of someone who doesn't have hope for the future. So for 2 weeks, I was depressed actually. Even when I came back to Malaysia, I just couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I could see those eyes staring at me. So this is the first one. So that's why as a parent, we keep on saying the greatest gift that you can give to your child is the gift of unconditional love. To be there fully and completely for the child. Because this is the first one. It creates hope for the child. The second one, the psychosocial stage, the second stage is will. It's about having will. So this is about, on one hand, growing up to have autonomy, power to do things. On the other end of the spectrum is about feeling shame about self. Yeah? So this stage is between the ages of 1.5 to about 3 years old. Now, at this stage, children are focused on developing a sense of personal control over physical skills and sense of independence. So this is the time that typically children, I use the term very helpful, but not very useful. Because this is a time that they want to do everything. When they do not know how to feed themselves, they scold you for feeding them. They say, I want to do it myself. But you know that they are not competent yet. So this one also relates to stage number 4. You will go there. So they want to have that sense of control, personal control. So this is when they start to say, no, I want to do this. I want to wear my pants on my head. I want to wear my my shirts using my legs. They want to have that personal control. So this is where, when parents, you give a lot of freedom for the child to experiment his or her control, you help the child to get that sense of autonomy, that I am autonomous. I can have full control over myself. And when parents, you point to the child that, oh, you cannot do this yet and all that. So the child begins to have a feeling of shame that I cannot do, I'm worthless. So this is where I say to parents that this is a time for you to take all the expensive things that you have, because 1.5 to 3 years old, they're already crawling and begin walking, and they begin taking things. Take all the expensive things, put it in a cupboard so that they cannot get to them, so that you don't have to say no to your child. Because at that time, the child wants to try out everything. Yeah? So this is the stage whereby they are developing that sense of autonomy. So once they have that sense of autonomy, then they know that they are the architect, they are the author of their own lives. So this is why you want to not use the word no. You do not want to introduce the word no into their vocabulary at that particular point in time. So when you have children at that age, you want to turn your house into a kindergarten. Everything is safe for the child so that the child can try out everything, because the dangerous things, you put them away already, because the child is developing this will. Now, the next stage is purpose. Purpose, on the one end of the scale, is initiative. The other end of the scale is guilt. So this is the ages of 3 to 5. At this stage, the children assert themselves more frequently through directing play and through other social interaction. So this is the time that when they are playing, let's say they are playing with you, parents, or playing with their friends, they always want to tell people what to do. Just I give the example of grasshopper. Grandfather, let's play. The moment she said let's play, there's nothing else that I should do but to play with. Okay, so they want to assert themselves in taking initiative to do something. Now, when you give the child the ability to take initiative, so that's when they begin to develop that, yes, when I initiate, when I start something, when I do something, I can get more control in my life. Because the other end of the spectrum is that when parents begin to say, oh no, you are still too small, you cannot do that. That's when the child begins to build this guilt in themselves. For example, the child takes the initiative to take the plate and wash it at the sink after eating. And because the child's hand is small, when we hold plates, we hold like this, right? Because the size of our hand is like that. But when the child holds the plate, it's like that. So it falls down, and the parents scold the child for that. That's when the child learns about guilt. Oh, when I do something, I get it wrong, and I get scolded for it. It is wrong, and the child begins to develop that guilt in themselves. So this is where, at this age of 3 to 5, when they are directing things, again, like last week we talked about creating becoming a gardener instead of a carpenter. So what you do is you create the environment around the child so that when the child takes initiative to, let's say, to wash the dishes or take the initiative to play in a certain way, the environment around the child is such that you are happy to let the child do that. So meaning to say, now the child learns to take full charge of whatever it is that they do for themselves. So that's how they know that, oh, taking initiative, taking control, being proactive is something that is helpful and useful to me, and I am a good person for doing that. Yeah. So this is the third stage that covers purpose, initiative versus guilt. Then the fourth stage, the stage of competency. So now the child is developing his or her power matrix, competency. So on one end of the spectrum is developing industry. The other end of the spectrum is inferiority. So that's the spectrum from inferiority to industry. We want to help the child to develop the state of industry, because that will strengthen the child's sense of, strengthen the child's competency, and that will lead to self-confidence. Children feels the need to win approval by demonstrating specific competencies that are valued by society. And when they're able to achieve that, they begin to develop a sense of pride in their achievements. So that is when, at this age of 5 to 12, you'll be frequently interrupted by the child. Mama, 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 look, I just did this. Mama, 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 I managed to do this. So this is when they want to be acknowledged that, hey, you are competent, you are skilled. So at that age, when they are at that age, don't be bored. Don't be bored by the accomplishment that they make, even though they've made that many times. Instead of, let's say, that is the 10th time today, the child say, Mama, Mama, I know how to draw. So you want to go into that state of awe. Wow, that's a great drawing that you have, because what you are doing is you are strengthening that sense of competency that the child has. So meaning to say, from my work, I do this and that and this and that, and I achieve this. I am competent to achieve this. So now you are allowing the child to develop that state of industry, doing something that creates an outcome. I gave the example of Pocoyo when Mama and Papi were vacuuming the house. When it comes to his area, he will take the vacuum cleaner. He wants to vacuum it himself. That is the need to do something, achieve something, and that develops that sense of industry. Yeah. So that's that fourth stage. Okay. There are 8 stages. So let me pause over here. Let me hear any questions or comments from the two of you. The first stage is hope. There is trust and mistrust. Second stage is will, autonomy versus shame. The third stage is purpose, initiative versus guilt. And the fourth stage is competency, industry versus inferiority. So any questions or comments?
I don't have.
I don't have.
Okay. Okay, good. Thank you. So, and what I would, what I would like you to do is that when I mention about the spectrum, it's not either or. There's some spectrum is that there is that analog, there is that that sense of how much you have hope, how much you have trust and how much you have mistrust. It is not you have it or you don't. Okay. Now, we can also see that when people's behaviors in life, you notice that certain people have more mistrust as compared to trust. So that is an indicator to us to show how the development process has gone through. And actually the social stages are so important to the extent that in our Meta NLP program, we have a specific pattern which is called finishing unfinished business. Because if we don't develop those healthily, as an adult, we do not become fully functioning.
Totally agree.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes.
So a person who does not develop trust will always be mistrusting of others in whatever that they do. A person who does not develop autonomy fully, when they do something, they are always feeling shameful about themselves and about what they do. So they lack that sense of autonomy about what they do. The third stage is initiative versus guilt. So that's why some people, even though they know something is good, something is right to do, but they shy away from doing it because they have that sense of guilt that I shouldn't be doing this. So they lack the purpose for doing something. And similarly, when we talk about competency, there are people I believe you meet in the workplace when, let's say, a certain job has been given to, let's say, the team. There are those people who are, okay, I'm going to do that. I'll do my best to do that. And yet there are also people, you know that they are skilled, and yet they feel, oh, maybe I'm not good enough to do that. So any lack of development will be shown. It will be exhibited by the person even when they are a grown-up. Okay, so these are the first 4 stages. So let's go into the next 4 stages. Stage number 5 is called fidelity. Fidelity, uh, on one end of the spectrum is identity. The other end of the spectrum is role confusion. Now, this stage occurs at the ages of 12 to 18. So now, coming into the teenage years, the third 6 years. Glenn Dorman used to use the term first 6, second 6, and the third 6. Okay? So the third 6 years of the child's life, now adolescents search for a sense of self and personal identity through an intense exploration of personal values, beliefs, and goals. So that's why a lot of parents, they notice that their child tends to rebel. One is at the age of about 2, they call it the terrible twos. So please, I want to remind you, do not believe that. At the age of 2, what happened is that the child is just beginning to assert his or her autonomy. So not a terrible 2. And then the next state, the next individuating period, which is starting at about 12 years old, the adolescent or the teenager also begin to assert a sense of self, because now the child is developing his or her own identity. The child begins to explore, sorry, it's not the child anymore. The teenager is beginning to explore, who am I? What are my roles in this house? What's my role outside of the house, at school? What's my role in society? And this is when, if they are given the opportunity, the freedom to explore the various roles, that's when they will come to a sense of identity for themselves that will be healthy. Otherwise, they might be conflicted. They might be conflicted. They do not have that sense of identity, and this conflict may happen when parents are over demanding on the child. Over demanding in the sense that when the child says something, the parents know you shouldn't be doing that. You should be like this. So to override a child's thinking, because I'm older than you, so you have to listen to me. So that's why in the first session of the parenting session that we have over here, I talk about the communication framework. The communication framework. So that's why parents needs to understand the different ways of communicating with the children, because as the child grows, you need to use different ways of communicating. So when the child is at the 12 to 18 year stage, that's when the parents shouldn't be communicating from telling. Now they need to be communicating from facilitating, because through that facilitation process, the child can go into their thinking, into their meanings, understandings, beliefs, and values. And because the child is given the opportunity to explore that, that helps the child to create a strong sense of identity. Yeah. So that's stage number 5. Now, stage number 6, and I will probably rest at stage number 6 over here, because stage number 6 is the stage for developing love. Love on one end of the spectrum is intimacy, to have that sense of intimacy with yourself and with others, somebody that you love. And the other end of the spectrum is isolation, feeling isolated. Okay? Now, this stage is between the age of 18 to 40.
Why 40?
40.
Why 40?
Yes. Because there are people who, because this stage is not fully developed, they may not know how to, they have the desire to be with someone. However, being with someone is very scary because they have not learned how to have an intimate relationship with another person. And typically at that age, 18 to 40 is the time when human beings, young adults, and 40 is already, we are considering full adult, begin to have partners. We have partners for our life. So when a person doesn't develop that sense of intimacy, healthy sense of intimacy, that's why when they meet potential partners, there's something that holds them back. They do not want to go fully into a relationship, to commit to a relationship, because they have not learned how to develop that intimacy with other human beings. Okay. So the major conflict centers on forming intimate, loving relationships with other people. So that's why Glenn Drummond says, if you take care of the first 6 years and the second 6 years, then the third and the fourth 6 years will take care of itself, because they are not independent, the stages, they are interdependent. For example, when we take love, a person who has learned to develop trust in stage 1 and learn to develop autonomy and has initiative and goes into industry, have that sense of industry, and have a strong sense of identity, healthy ego strength, does not feel threatened when they go into relationship with another person.
Marzuki, I have a question.
Yes.
You talk about this, isolation and intimacy, this one. How about the adult? Some people, they actually prefer outgoing, but some actually prefer to like alone. So is it related to this one?
No, it's not related to that. That is, we use the term rejuvenation direction, how you rejuvenate. So how you recharge your batteries. Some people, they have the, they want to rejuvenate, they want to be with other people. Some people, when they want to rejuvenate, they just want to be alone. Nothing wrong with that. Yeah, it's just that intimacy here is to be able to develop loving relationships with another human being. Yeah. So it doesn't mean that the person who likes to be by him or herself, rejuvenation direction in introversion, doesn't mean that person do not know how to develop intimate relationships. It doesn't mean that a person who is extroversion knows how to develop intimate relationship. It has no bearing. There's no bearing. So this is about having the skill to develop loving relationships with others. It comes from that sense of intimacy, to have the confidence, to have the strength of strong sense of self, that when I am being in an intimate relationship with someone, I am not giving up myself, neither am I being threatened. So I can be in a relationship with someone else. Some people, they fear that intimate relationship. Some people, I would use the word, they get addicted to that. Addicted because they need to borrow their sense of self from the partner. So that's why you see certain people, they end up in abusive relationship, one partner abusing the other. The one who is being abused is a willing victim because being abused is part of the identity that they get from the partner. So these are complex situation, because when the developmental stages does not happen in a healthy way, then you have this unhealthy relationship with self and unhealthy relationship with others. So that's why that pattern, if you want to go back to that pattern on finishing unfinished business, it will be useful, you will be good, because if you notice yourself operating in the unresourceful spectrum, then you want to be able to finish that business. So that is why I keep on saying that when it comes to our mental, emotional, and spiritual development, what we have in NLP and neurosemantics, we have the tools to recapitulate any trauma, whether it is mental or emotional trauma that we have we have gone through in our life. We have the tool to recapitulate, meaning to say to redevelop what has been stunted in terms of the growth. Yeah. The only thing is physical. Physical, there's nothing that you can do about it. We don't have the technology for that. Okay. So we are referring to the psychosocial stages of Erik Erikson. So that pattern, finishing unfinished business, is specifically for this, so that we can become fully functioning adults, human beings. Because if a person grows with mistrust, having shame, feeling guilty, feeling inferior, and confused about roles and feel isolated, that person cannot experience life fully as a human being. They are constrained, they are leashed, because the psychosocial development has not progressed fully. Full development means the person has trust, the person has autonomy, the person has initiative, the person has industry, and strong sense of identity and intimacy. So this is the healthy human being. So as parents, especially, you want to take care of the first six stages, because typically your children from age of birth to about 18 years old, so that's when the development, the six stages is within your purview, within the space that you have, within the time that you have with them. Because the next two stages, they become, they're already adults, and they are probably by need to develop it by themselves. However, when you have helped them to develop fully in the six stages, the stage number 7, care, is about generativity versus stagnation. Generativity refers to making your mark in the world. You want to generate something new, generate energy in life. So in that way, of making a mark in the world. Steve Jobs used the term making a dent in the universe. Yeah? So you make a mark on the world through creating and nurturing things that will outlast an individual. So that's why human beings have this desire to create something that will outlast them. Maybe it is a company that will outlast them. Maybe it is a creation. Maybe it is an invention. So this is part of generativity. Yeah? So and during the Middle Ages, because this stage is the stage of 40 to 65. So so during the Middle Ages, individuals experience a need to create or nurture things that will outlast them. So that's why people talk about, the word is midlife crisis. Because that's when they think about, not just about themselves, they are thinking about what is the impact that they are bringing into this world. So if the first 6 stages have been healthy, then they will go through this next stage, this stage 7, the stage for care in a healthy way. And the next stage is stage number 8, the stage of wisdom. On one end, you have ego, integrity. Your ego is one, it is integrous, and the other is despair. So this one we are talking about age 65 and above. So I've not reached that yet. Maybe I have, I don't know. So at this age, we begin to contemplate about our achievement. We look at our life, we think about our accomplishments, and then in that way, we can develop integrity if we see ourselves leading a successful life. And this is when, that is why some people you notice above the age of 65, when they grow, so-called when they grow old, some people they feel they have had a fulfilled life. Some people they regret the life that they lead. This is this part. Okay, so as parents, you want to at least be aware of the first 6 stages, because the child goes through those 6 stages while they are right in front of you. Until the age of 18, they are right in front of you, and some of them they will still be with you until about 20 or 30 before they find their partners and they start their own lives there. So when you grow your child aware of what they need at this age, at this time, fulfilling that need, gratifying that need, that's when they become healthy in that stage, and then they can move into the next stage. If they are not fully developed, for example, hope, trust, not fully developed, and they begin to go into autonomy. So that is creating the word is a weak foundation. So the foundation for each stage, if it is developed healthily, strong, so it acts as a foundation for the next stage and the next stage and the next stage. Okay, so that's why again, the words of Glenn Dorman, he says, take good care of the first 6 years of the child's life and the second 6 years of the child's life. The third and the fourth 6 years will take care of itself, because now you are building that foundation. Okay, any comments or questions?
Marzuki, just now you mentioned the finishing and finishing business. This one is from Erickson concept, is it?
Yes, it is from this psychosocial stages of Erik Erikson. And in NLP, we have a pattern how to do that. And typically when I run the Meta NLP program, I will ask you to take one of the stages to check. Yeah. And what you can do is you can refer back to this point that we've discussed, and you check with yourself. So where am I with respect to trust and mistrust? And when you coach yourself, you go into the meta levels, understanding whether you have healthy boundaries about trust and mistrust, because you cannot be trusting all the time. In what situations can you not be trusting? So the unhealthy one is you are stuck. You are stuck. And the unhealthy one is a person is stuck at the mistrust, finds difficulty in trusting others. They are stuck. They cannot move to be trusting. So if you find yourself there, then run the pattern for this trust, mistrust, autonomy, or shame. Just take a look. That is about knowing the, I would say in terms of spectrum, knowing, having the ability to shift along the spectrum. Okay.
Is this something also related to satir, something, SATIR?
Are you referring to Satir, Virginia Satir?
Yes, yes.
Virginia Satir is family systems. That's the communication model for family system. It could be. I'm not so sure whether Virginia Satir also brings this aspect as well. I'm not sure.
Okay, it's okay.
I need to check that. Okay. So, Franska, any questions from you?
I think so far okay.
Okay, good.
Mm.
So I'm
but,
just,
but sorry.
yeah.
For the stage number 7, right? You say it about K. So that one,
Again,
H
number 7.
number 7, stage number 7.
Uh-huh.
You mentioned it is about K.
Yeah.
So I actually don't understand why H40 and above is related to about K.
Mm. We are referring to the state or the sense of generating. Generating refers to doing something that is beyond you. So now we are referring to moving up into the hierarchy of needs, into the self-actualization. So now it is beyond you. It is not about me, but beyond me. So this is about caring, not just for self. It's about caring for for others. So to be generating meaning to say to create life, to create opportunities, to create growth. That's you are generating, like you generate electricity, you generate energy. So you are doing something that is creating value that other people can use. Okay, so that's because you care. That is about caring. You care because you want to leave an impression, you want to leave a mark in this world. Now, the other end of the spectrum is stagnation. Stagnation meaning to say, there's nothing more that I can do. There's nothing more for me to contribute. That's it. So the person just stays there.
That's why some people like do more charity.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
So that's why you notice people who are healthy at this stage, even when they retire, so they retire at the age of 60, yeah, even when they retire, they do not sit still. They involve themselves in Rotary Club or something like that, because they want to do something that will generate life, that generates value, that is generativity.
I joined my Toastmaster club, right? Actually, can consider 70 or 80% is retired people. The oldest one is 89 years old.
Okay.
And they willing to teach like us, and for youngest, they're willing to teach, spend time, extra class. They're willing to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, because they are healthy at that stage. However, for one of that person, you say maybe 80 years old, for one person like that, there are 100 who are not. Okay? Yeah, because when people don't develop, don't grow in the psychosocial stages, they don't grow to become healthy in terms of their development, they don't achieve the full development. This is what we call self-actualization, to actualize your full development. So when they don't achieve their full development, that is why many people after retiring, they just sit and not do anything productive anymore.
That will be a nightmare.
Yeah.
Like don't know how to, like every day also wake up and nothing to do and sit there.
So that's why when we talk about wealth in our life, nothing wrong with you being financially independent at the age of 30. Nothing wrong. It's just that even if you don't need to work for money anymore, you do something that is valuable to society. So this is when you are free. You don't work for money. Your money is working for you, and yet you are generating growth. You are creating growth in life and the people around you. So this is development stage over here. Okay. And part of it is at stage number 3, which is purpose. So stage number 3 is what? Ages of 3 to 5. So when your child at the age of 3 to 5 develops that sense of industry, will have a sense of purpose. So that becomes a strong foundation for stage number 7. So notice the developmental changes that a person goes through in the early stages will impact the development that they go through in the later stages. Okay, so now Franska, you're, I hope you're thinking, wow, I've got a big job in front of me.
The more I know, I feel the more things I need to learn.
Yeah.
It's very deep and deeper.
Franska, you need to attend more classes.
Yeah. And then I also scared that when I don't have the formula to follow, I don't know what to do next.
Yeah, and that's quite all right, because all that you need to do is to apply your thirst, your hunger for knowledge. So you keep on learning, getting more and more formulas, and then you'll know what to do. Right?
Yes. Quaching preparing. Quaching learn now.
Yeah.
And use later.
Yes, you are learning now, and you have a really great head start. So congratulations to you. Okay, so those are the psychosocial stages. Now, in the short time that we have, I'll just run through very quickly the cognitive development stages. I'll run through very quickly. In the short course on effective parenting, I'll go in slightly deeper. Yeah, the cognitive development stages. This comes from Jean Piaget. One is the sensory motor stages. This is from age of birth to 2 years. This is when the infant learns about the world through the senses, VAKOG, and through the actions by interacting with the environment. Yeah. During this sensory motor stage, a range of cognitive abilities develop. These include object permanence. They see an object, they know it is there, self-recognition, deferred imitation, and representational play. They relate to the emergence of a general symbolic function, which is the capacity to represent the world mentally. So between birth to 2 years, first is they learn about things outside there. And then they begin to learn how to represent things in their movie mind. And at about 8 months, the infant will understand the permanence of objects. That objects will still exist even if they cannot see them. Infant, when they see an object, they know that the object exists. When they don't see the object, the object is no more there. So that's why infant, before the age of, before 8 months old, you play. They are so, because the moment they cannot see your face, they think that you are gone, you've disappeared. So that's why when your face comes again, they are so shocked. However, within the two-year period, they begin to realize, oh, even though I cannot see, it is still there. So that's why little children, before they learn about permanence of object, they cannot let you out of their sight. So your baby later on, even when you want to go to the toilet, you cannot leave the baby outside. The baby must see you to know that you exist. because the baby knows that, okay, I have to rely on her to survive. If she's gone, I'm gone. So that's why, that's why mothers say that I cannot even go to the toilet alone. No, at the age of about birth to about they start moving by about 3 or 4 months old, and until about 9 months old, 8 or 9 months old, they must see you in order to know that you exist. So this is the sensory motor stage. And parents who think that, oh, my baby should know. No, the child has not developed that yet. So they are still in the sensory motor stage. Okay. Now, next stage is the pre-operational stage. So this is between 2 to 7 years. These are the guidelines. 2 to 7
not
years.
human yet.
Sorry again, Kwak Cheng? Kwak Cheng?
Hello?
We've lost your audio.
They are not human yet.
Ah.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
They are-
Oh, yeah, the audio has gone again.
I remember my niece, right? She when she was, I think, less than 2 years, I forgot, I think 1 or 2 years old. She closed her eyes like this. She will say you can't see her anymore.
Yeah.
Because she cannot see us anymore. So she will thought you also cannot see her anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very funny.
There was one time Grasshopper was about 1 year old or something. She wanted to do something that Mama wouldn't let her do. It's not safe for her to do that. You know what she did? In the middle of the room, in the middle of office, she just took a blanket cover over herself and thought that since Mama cannot see me, Mama doesn't know that I'm doing this. So this is the sensory motor stage. Okay, so the next stage is the pre-operational stage, 2 to 7. Now the toddlers and young children, they acquire the ability to internally represent the world. So they see the world, they can represent it here using language and mental imaginary. Yeah. During this stage, young children can think about things symbolically. So this is the ability to make one thing, such as a word or an object, stand for something other than itself. So this is the meaning making stage. They begin to make meanings about things, and they know they can put different meaning to things. A child's thinking is dominated by how the world looks, not how the world is. It is not yet capable of a logical problem-solving type of thought. So they cannot, they have their own logic. They create the logic, the meaning according to how things look. So, and infants at this stage, about the 2-year-old stage, they also demonstrate animism. Animism, the tendency for the child to think that non-living objects, such as toys, they have life and have feelings like a human being. So that's why when they take the toy, they speak to the toy as if the toy is a live thing. Because at that stage, to them, that is a living thing. Okay, so this is 2 to 7 years, the pre-operational stage. So if you want to communicate to a child at, let's say, this age, this is where you need to truly go into the map of the world. There was, I think, Pocoyo about 3 or 4 years old. He's entranced by Transformers, and when they play hide and seek, he would just go into the room and he lie down on the floor. And when he lie down on the floor, he has transformed into a truck. So if papi or mama were to come into the room, papi or mama will not see him. They will only see the truck on the floor. So at that point in time, if you are the mama, don't say, I found you. He'll be very disappointed because you are not supposed to see him. You are supposed to see a truck. So if you want to create rapport, create relationship with the child, that's when at this stage, they are the pre-operational stage, they have symbols, they put meaning to symbols, and you want to communicate to them using the symbols and meanings that they put to the symbols. So this is where you need to first seek to understand, to be understood. Because the symbols that they use have totally different meanings to us. Okay. Next stage is the concrete operational stage. This one ages 7 to 11 years old. Now, during this stage, children begin to think logically about concrete events. Events that are happening out there, they begin to have a logical way of thinking about those. Children begin to understand the concept of conservation, understanding that although things may change in appearance, certain properties remain the same. So prior to that, if you as the parent, you change your appearance, it will cause a shock to the system as well. But when they begin to go into the concrete operational stage, when they see changes happening around them, then they can make some logical conclusions about what changed and what remains the same. Yeah. So during this stage, children also become, during this stage, children can mentally reverse things. So now they are able to run the movie mind. So they can run the movie forward, they can run the movie backwards. And also at this stage, children become less egocentric and begin to think about how other people may think and feel. So the 7 to 11 years of age, that is when they begin to have to develop a healthy matrix of others. Prior to that, they are in their matrix of self. They have not developed the matrix of others. There are some children who develop that earlier. There are some adults who have not developed that. So it depends on how you encourage and grow your child, whether they achieve that development stage in terms of the concrete operational stage. And then at the fourth level is the formal operational stage. This is refers to ages 12 and up. Formal operational stage, concrete operations are carried out on things, whereas formal operations are carried out on ideas. So we are referring to the logical thinking. In the previous stage, the logical thinking refers to concrete operations, refers to things that they can see, hear, feel, touch out there. Now, the formal operational stage is the thought is entirely freed from physical and perceptual constraints. Now they can run that logic system in the concepts that they have in their head. Yeah? Compared to the third stage, they have that logic applied to what's outside there. Now they can, at this stage, they can use the logical thinking on the concepts that they have. So they can now think with concepts. During this stage, adolescents can deal with abstract ideas. That is no longer needing to, for example, at the concrete stage, you want to say to the child, 1 divided by 4, what is that? That is a concept. They cannot figure that one out. So that's why in mathematics, a child, you take concrete things. Let's say you take a cake, you slice. See, from 1, I cut it into 4, divide by 4. So this is a quarter of that. So now they begin to, at the concrete stage, they need to have that physical thing. Now at the formal stage, they can think it in their mind, and they can follow the form of an argument without having to think in terms of specific examples. So that's why you notice that when you explain certain concepts, adolescents and adults who have reached to that level, they can follow that through in terms of the concept rather than having to see example. This one is starting from the age of 12, going up, Guat Cheng. Yeah? Starting the age of 12. Prior to that, they need to have something physical, something concrete to hold on to. And the formal operational stage, adolescents can deal with hypothetical problems with many possible solutions. So you can create a problem that is not real, it can be imaginary, and yet the person now, the adolescent now, can think of many different solutions to it. Okay. So for example, if you ask the question, what would happen if money were abolished in 1 hour's time? So that's a hypothetical situation. However, if they have reached this level of formal operational stage, they can come up with many possible ideas about that. Okay. So as I say that, we talk about this formal operational stage. If from the age of 12, that is not fully developed, that's why you see many adults today, 40, 50, or 60 years old, cannot handle concepts because that part of the thinking process, the cognitive development stage, has not been fully developed. Okay, so those are the 4 cognitive development stages from Jean Piaget. So one is the sensory motor stage, ages from birth to 2 years. Then the pre-operational stage from 2 to 7 years. The concrete operational stage from 7 to 11 years. And then the formal operational stage, 12 and up. So these are the cognitive developmental stages. So when you want to approach a child, the logic that you give to the child has got to match the cognitive developmental stage of the child. So if the child is at stage 1, you give logic at stage 3, the child cannot understand that logic. And then sometimes parents say, wow, my child don't know anything. I explained many times, also don't understand. And I have I would say, a brutal metaphor for it. It is brutal. Why I use brutal is that if a parent expects the child who's at stage 1, expects to understand logic at stage 3, it is just like you expecting a blind man to physically see. Because the brain connections has not been created yet for the child to understand the logic at stage 3. So if you want the child to understand you, you need to bring your logic, the child's logic. Then the child will understand. So that's why at the beginning of this session, we say a child is not a little adult.
Monster.
Yeah. And many parents make this mistake. They explain to a child the way that even some adults find difficulty to understand. And of course, the child just go. Okay, questions and comments.
What is the difference between the both things that you, one is the what psychosocial stage, the other one is cognitive development. So
Yeah.
actually, what is the difference or what is the similarity or and what is how to differentiate the both?
Now, the overlap, of course, there is some overlap because we are talking about the stages from 0 to 6. There are some similarities there. Now, psychosocial stages refers to the child's psychology and sociology. That's why we call it psycho uh, uh, social stages. Hold on. So, so psychosocial stages, we are referring to the how many? 8, right? Hope,
Yes.
will, purpose, competency, fidelity, love, care, wisdom. So those are the social stages of a child. Then this is about cognitive development. Cognitive is how a person makes sense of things. You give information, how do they make sense of things? Right? So we talk about the sensory motor stage, the pre-operational stage, the concrete operational stage, and then the formal operational stage. So there are the 4 stages. Now there is a lot of overlap because as a child is, let's say from birth to 2 years old, that is when the child is uh, developing hope. At the same time, the cognitive development is in the area of sensory motor. So when we talk about sensory motor, so how do you let's say communicate to the child that you are being cared for? So since the child is at the sensory motor stage, so that's why touching the child at that age, 0 to 2, continuous, regular touching of the child, because there is concrete sensory motor, will communicate to the child that I am being cared for. So that is why from birth to 2 years old, the love language, the language of caring for the child, the language of taking care of you uh, should be more of the physical touch, because they are at that stage of sensory motor. They have not comprehended. When you say I love you, they have not comprehended that. They may sense it, but they have not fully comprehended that. What is love to them? They have not created meanings yet because the cognitive development has not reached to that level. So to match that. So they are developing both in parallel together. You have the psychosocial and then the cognitive development developing in parallel to that.
So need to use both.
Hmm?
Need to use both to teach the kids.
Need to use?
Both psycho and the cognitive.
Oh yes, both.
Okay.
Yeah. So they are not separate. However, when we look at the child, you want to develop them together. Just be aware of what is the stage that they are in. Yeah? Because when we talk about helping a child to develop, we need to understand what is the stage that they are in terms of the psychosocial stage. So what we have discussed this evening are 2 areas of human beings development. There is the psychosocial and also the cognitive development. There are other areas. One are the belief stages. That's another area we are not bringing into the discussion this evening. This is according to Fowler. And then there is also the stages of adult development from Robert Kegan. So these are also development stages of human beings. However, those stages, the belief the belief stages is important for parents to know because it happens as the child is growing while the child is under your care. At the same time, the stages of adult development, moves when the person becomes an adult. So those are also happening as the child is growing, especially the belief stages. So that's why, for example, when we talk about beliefs, parents creating beliefs in the child that are not true. That is why certain children, when they realize that that the belief that they have, for example, the belief in Santa Claus. So the child comes to the age, and in the beginning, the child believes Santa Claus is a real human being, and suddenly realize, comes an age, realize that not a real human being. For some children, there is a traumatic experience for them. Yes. And because of that, they lose trust in a lot of things. And it could happen that when that happens, the child may lose trust in the parents because you've been lying to me. So those are the belief stages. we are not discussing, but I'm just giving that as an example. So they come in simultaneously at the same time. So once you are aware of the psychosocial stages, the cognitive development stages, and also the belief stages, then what you give to the child when it is appropriate to the stage that they are in, that's when they develop healthily. When it is not appropriate to the stage that they are in, then the child has no way of comprehending it. It is just like demanding a blind man to physically see. So that's why you need to bring your communication, use the mode of communication that fits in with the child's stage, whether it is the psychosocial stage or the cognitive development stage or the belief stage. You want to match it with the child's stage, and then only the child will be able to develop, because they are receiving the stimulus that they are ready to receive, and they can respond to that. But it doesn't mean that you only give the stimulus to that child's level only. What you, as parent, this is, for example, understanding that, let's say in the sensory motor stage, 0 to 2, you are giving logical arguments at that level, sensory motor stage. It doesn't mean you only give at that level. You give at just slightly one higher, so that the child understands at his or her level, then receives information that doesn't quite make sense yet. Because when you do that, you are stimulating the child's growth to the next level. So that is where the trick, the balance, I would say the fun of parents, to know where your children are right now and to identify just one level slightly higher so that I can push that envelope. Because if you keep on having that just one level higher to push the envelope, then the child begins to respond. It begins to grow. We just go beyond that envelope. Then you put another level slightly higher. And so that's how a child, that's why you notice sensory motor stages from birth to 2 years. Now, if from birth the child is receiving stimulus according to his or her age and slightly more, may complete that stage by 1 year. So that's why we have people who we consider as, what's the word? Oh, I can't remember the word now. Prodigy. People, children who are prodigy. They may be 12 years old, and yet their intellectual capacity is already like an adult, because it's been constantly stimulated. Because once you stimulate it, they will respond by going more and more. It's just that do not make it a too high a jump. If it is too high a jump, they cannot respond to that. Yeah. It's just like the stairs going up. So if you have the stairs asking a child to go one step to another step to another step of the stairs, the child can go up. If you expect the child to jump from step 1 to step 3 at one go, the child cannot do that. So that's why to know where your child is at right now and to know what is that little bit beyond that. So now you stimulate the child. You just go to that level. When I talk about the concrete operational stage, 7 to 11 years old, that's when a child becomes less egocentric. What I notice about Grasshopper at the age of 4, she's already less egocentric. She's not egocentric anymore. Why? Because while she was growing up from 0 to 4, she's already been receiving stimulus about the matrix of others, to be thinking about others. So when I look at Piaget's model, he talked about 7 to 11, 7 to 11 years old. I went, oh, Grasshopper reached that at the age of 4. Because yes, when you are stimulating a certain aspect of their growth, they will respond to that and they may develop that much faster. And the thing about it is that it is not about developing it, comparing it with others. It is about giving the child the gift of self-control and self-determinism as early as the child can receive it. Maybe an example is probably if you have heard stories about, let's say, your grandparents or your great-grandparents. They are ready to take on responsibilities of an adult, what, at the age of 12 to 16 years old, right? Some of them even, let's say, boys, at the age of 16 years old, they are already doing things, creating livelihood for the family. Because during that time, that part is being stimulated. Girls, maybe at the age of 10 to 12 years old, are already taking on responsibilities of an adult, taking care of the home and all that. Because that has been stimulated. And if you were to compare with the our society today,
kesian. So pity, kesian.
Now, we don't need to go that far. I keep giving the example of Grasshopper. She's 12 now. She can take care of her 1-year-old sister all by herself. Everything.
Wow. It's good, is it? Actually?
Yes.
Yeah. I realized. Sorry,
go ahead.
I realized that my niece, she actually got two youngest brother. Now she is 5 years old. I think she developed others earlier because she got brothers, she got siblings. The other niece is the only daughter. She like a little bit like more moody or not really know how to play with others. I think got different if you got siblings.
Yes. So that's why if you notice, let's say children in the family, let's say family of 3 or 4, you notice that the development of the second one compared to the first one, the second one is faster because the second one has got a model. They can model the elder brother or elder sister. The third one, the development is faster than the second one. So it's about what is being provided in their living environment whether the environment, you as the gardener, creating the environment, is it stimulating their psychosocial development, their cognitive development, and also their belief stages? Is it stimulating them? So if the environment that you create are positively contributing to their development, that's why the process will go much faster. If it is not being stimulated, then it will go much slower. Maybe another example that I can give to you, Franska, I wonder if you remember. For me, I remember very well when, because since I was a little boy, I love babies. My younger brother I was 3 years old when I had a younger brother. So I love babies. And during those time, I remember parents, when they visit other parents who have babies and all that, one of the things that I noticed that they keep on saying, your child, when he was born, was he able to open his eyes already? Because during those time, children, when they're born, they cannot open their eyes yet. Most of them take about a week before they can open their eyes. And it's rare that a child that is born, that was born during that time, when they were born, they can already open their eyes.
Why?
Today, all children born eyes like that.
Yeah. Why like that?
And this is what I'm guessing, because during those time, the child in the womb, the stimulation, there's hardly any stimulation, because when the child is in the womb, the stimulation to the child is sound stimulation. And during olden time, it's very quiet. So when the child is in the womb, hardly any stimulation. So that's why the development of the pathway between the eye and the brain, the ear and the brain, has not been stimulated, and because of that, they have not fully developed. But today, you working today, you have all of those, you Zoom with your colleagues, that audio is going to your child. The child is being stimulated. And because of that, the cells in her body is responding to that. So that's why the eyes are already advanced in terms of its development. Also, especially the ears, they're already advanced. So I wouldn't be surprised that when you give birth, your baby will open the eyes. For example, like Sophia, she learns how to respond to my voice when she was still in the womb. She recognized my voice.
Wow.
Because I was talking to her.
So I need to keep talking to my kids.
Oh, yes. Yes. Glenn Dorman used the term, a child that is given a head start will stay ahead. So you have audio to stimulate your child. So keep talking to your child. Okay. So I hope that by understanding that as a child goes through these stages, you have the psychosocial stages, you have the cognitive development stages. We didn't discuss about the belief stages. The key to helping the child to grow and develop is to approach the child according to what stage that they are in. Because when you stimulate the child at what stage they are in, not age. The age is a guideline. As you stimulate the child at that particular stage, you're helping the child to develop that, helping the child to develop trust, helping the child to develop autonomy, helping the child to develop concrete operational cognitive stage, helping the child to develop in terms of the belief stages. So when you approach the child according to the stage that they are in, appropriate to that stage, then you are helping the child to develop healthily. And the child will grow up to become a healthy, fully functioning human being. However, on the other end is that the child is not stimulated according to what they need at that point. Then that development can be stunted. It will not grow. It will stop there. The growth will stop there. So the child can become an adult without any trust, full of shame, full of guilt, and will not be able to perform like a fully functioning human being. So that is what we mean by fully functioning human being. And that is my wish for you and for your children, that you grow to become a fully functioning human being, and you help your child to become a fully functioning human being.
Very important. Thank you.
Okay, so with that, we've come to the end of the session. Any final thoughts, any final questions that you have? Guat Ching, anything from you?
So
Can't hear anything from you.
maybe we can check from the chat.
Oh, good question. If an adult never went through a full cognitive development, example, cannot understand abstract concept, can they still fix this problem after they grow up? Yes, I would say yes, because this is my personal belief. When it comes to three of our intelligences, the intellectual intelligence, the emotional intelligence, and the spiritual intelligence, if there are any areas that has not been fully developed, and even in the psychosocial stages or the cognitive stages, if they have not been fully developed, yes, we can still do something about it. That can be stimulated. It's just that we don't have the technology for the physical part. The physical part, if it is stunted, the physical goes through chronological age, and if it is stunted, we cannot recapitulate that. So in the psychosocial stage, if it is not fully developed, we've already got the finishing unfinished business pattern to help that. In the cognitive development stage, that requires a lot more exercises to be done. It can be recapitulated. Now, to what extent, that depends. That depends on the level that you are now. For example, if let's say you are at level 6, probably we can help to develop it to go to level 10. However, if the person develops to only to level 2 of part of the cognitive development, only at level 2, to bring it to level 10, maybe it will take much longer. I don't know whether we can achieve that. However, probably from level 2, we can help the person to bring it up to level 4 or 5, maybe. So that requires training and coaching and practice to do that. And practice referring to even the cognitive development of a person requires a lot of practice. So, for example, why is reading so important? Because it helps you with your cognitive ability, your thinking process. That's why many people after school, their cognitive process just goes down the drain because they stop reading, they stop thinking. Yeah. So thank you for asking that question, Guat Ching.
I have
So
last question.
it is not all lost. Yes, Franska.
Because recently Christmas, right? Actually, my sister, she also bought the present for the kids, and then she said Santa Claus is come, give the gift to them. But just now you say when the kids grow up and then realize the parents actually lie to them. So how are the belief they will distrust the parents, or how to overcome this issue?
When you mentioned that,
Mm.
I remember this conversation between Grasshopper and her mama.
Uh,
I think she was about not even 6 years old, about 5 years old.
mm-hmm.
I think maybe she heard this thing uh, about Santa Claus and all that. And then she asked her mama, Mama, is it true that some parents lie to their children? And then my daughter looked at her, yes, some parents do. And then she got up from her chair, went up to her mama and hugged her mama and said to her mama, Mama, thank you for not lying to me.
Yeah.
So that's how important it is to the child. Because for the child to navigate this world safely, it needs an accurate map. So when you lie to your child, the map is not accurate. And with that inaccurate map, the child can be in danger. And a child can understand the difference between fantasy, imagination, and reality. Grasshopper understands that at the age of 2. She'll be fantasizing about something, playing with that, and suddenly grandfather comes and asks her, Grasshopper, what are you doing? Uh, uh, she says that I'm playing with my friend. She explained that, and then she looks at me. That's just my imagination.
Oh my God.
And I went, oh wow. Even at that stage, she can have this clear distinction between reality and imagination.
Yeah.
So if parents want to use the metaphor of Santa Claus giving presents to their children, go ahead if you find that that is desirable for your culture. However, from an early stage, let the child understand that it is a metaphor. It
Also
is
have
a,
to let them know.
so let them know that yeah, Santa Claus is just made up. I made up this Santa Claus so that it is it will be more fun. Let the child know it is made up. Don't let the child believe that Santa Claus is a real human being. Because when the child knows that Santa Claus is not a real human being, expectation and reality mismatch. That's traumatic.
Oh my God. Because I saw my niece, they all right, is very happy when they wake up at the morning and then they saw the present. And then they saw the Santa Claus is drink her soya, eat the cookies. They are very excited, like because they took the video show me. So it's like the mismatch is very big, like that.
The parents need to gradually let the child know. So the parent can do something like, let's say the child puts out some cookies for Santa Claus, and next morning the cookies are gone. So maybe after, oh, the cookies are gone, Santa Claus has eaten the cookies. And then maybe the father can say, and the cookies were very delicious. Oops. So hinting to the child that I'm play acting as Santa Claus. And the child is very good at play. So they can figure that out. Okay.
Okay.
So this is how they learn. Right? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. So any other question, Guat Cheng?
No, No more. Thank you,
Thank
Marzuki.
you. Yeah. And Franska, everything
No
okay?
more. Yeah.
Right. So thank you very much for being
Thank
here
you.
this evening. I really appreciate your company. I love it to have you in this session. And I hope to be seeing you again. Oh yes, our next session, and Franska, our next session will be the short course on
Tuesday?
effective parenting. That will be on Tuesday.
Yes.
And on Thursday, that will be the neurosemantic circle. And on Friday,
Okay. Okay.
on Friday will be our next session for this one. And I'm hoping that from parenting, I want to move into emotional intelligence. Yeah, so moving into emotional intelligence, because as parents as well, connecting with our children, having the emotional intelligence will be very useful in developing the growth of our children and also for ourselves. So with that, thank you very much. Look forward to seeing you when I see you the next time.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Marzuki.
Good night.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.